This is not getting discussed on the mainstream media. Not only are they wrong legally, but the fact that they would do this is outrageous. This is an overreaction and really nonsense. How would you react if this was your son or your daughter? It's the offense of knowing the truth. It's the offense of having an alternate worldview. Saying God bless you to someone is not a violation of the law. Well, welcome to the broadcast, everyone. We want you to get into the conversation early. Your impressions on yesterday's presidential debate. How do you see the election? Who are you supporting in this upcoming election just 2 weeks away? Interesting headlines. Politico says that there was far from a consensus view on who won the debate in the hours after it ended. They had two instant polls, gave Obama a clear edge over Romney, but the pundit class was, to quote Obama, all over the map. And they said all over the map is that some said that it went to Romney, some said it went to Obama, to the president. Interestingly also, Chuck Todd from MSNBC, it was said, looking at the debate, too late for President Obama to disqualify Mitt Romney. He has to requalify himself. And Charles Krautheimer from Fox News said that the thing that Mitt Romney was able to accomplish last night was looking presidential and looking like a commander-in-chief. The CNN poll, by the way, basically said both of them met that role of commander-in-chief. I'm in the studio. We're going to have, by the way, a number of our experts on with us today. Our phone lines are already jammed, but we've got Skip Ash, Senior Counsel for the ACLJ, heads up our National Security Group. David French also is here, Senior Counsel with the ACLJ, also a Judge Advocate General in the United States Army. Your impression, David, first on the debate last night. Where do you think it goes? I mean, it's over with now. Obviously, the candidates are out campaigning.
If you watched the debate and you didn't know who was president and who was the challenger, you would have thought that Mitt Romney was the president and Barack Obama was the challenger.
Because of the aggressiveness of which President Obama was engaging the debate.
Because of President Obama's very aggressive and sometimes condescending and snarky attacks, which is what a challenger often tries to do.
There is a statement that I want to play from President Obama. It's number 7. It's talking about the job of the president as commander-in-chief. Number 7.
Well, my first job as commander-in-chief, Bob, is to keep the American people safe. And that's what we've done over the last 4 years. All
right, I want to stop it right there. And, David, of course, this ignores the fact that we've had significant attacks in the United States.
On American soil, we had a terrible shooting at Fort Hood. And the United States government has decided to classify something that was obviously motivated by jihad, with a gunman shrieking Allah Akbar as he's shooting. They call it workplace violence.
Yeah.
You know, as if it's just a disgruntled worker who got laid off and being upset. I mean, it's manifestly untrue. We had a shooting at an Arkansas recruiting station. We've had incidents here in the United States. We haven't had anything about 9/11, to be sure, but we have
Well, we've had a 9/11 attack, though, and that is that attack on Libya in that embassy. It was an attack on the United States, Skip. I mean, that is an attack on the United States.
It certainly was, and I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, and there's nothing worse than a soldier turning on his comrades, and that's exactly what happened there. And
he was screaming Allah Akbar.
That's exactly right. So It was terrorism, pure and simple.
But that was in the phase when the Obama administration did not want to call terrorism. Now, they kind of loosened up on a little bit on that now, but that's really what we're talking about. And we're going right to the phones. April's calling. Hi, April. Welcome to the broadcast. You're on the air.
Hi. My husband's a United States Marine. He served twice.
Thank you for his service. And for yours.
He's a infantryman in the Marines. And first of all, I asked him, why don't we have a Marine base at all the embassies to protect these embassies? You know, they're so, vulnerable. He said, April, they do. But they do not. They did not have one in Benghazi. And I would like to know why.
Well, we're asking the same question on why, but what is the normal practice? Skip, let me go to you first. Normally there are a detachment of Marines there. I mean, even if it's local security.
That's right. The Marines provide the security for every U.S. embassy. With respect to consuls, it depends on the area, whether it's safe or not. But clearly, Benghazi was not a safe area since we were the only ones left behind, as has been discussed. Everybody else departed because of the danger.
And that's why, again, folks, we don't know what happened here, which is the irony of all of this. David?
Well, you know, the sad thing about it is you're going to have consulates in Western Europe that are better protected than our consulate was in Benghazi.
Including Paris, France.
Exactly. And
in Europe. I mean, it was...
And when everyone else was pulling out, the only thing we were pulling out was our security. And that's just unbelievable.
There was a discussion about the size of our Navy. First, Governor Romney, here's what he had to say.
Our Navy is smaller now than any time since 1917. The Navy said they needed 313 ships to carry out their mission. We're now down to 285. We're headed down to the low 200s if we go through with sequestration. That's unacceptable to me. I want to make sure that we have the ships that are required by our Navy. Our Air Force is older and smaller than any time since it was founded in 1947. We've changed for the first time since FDR. Since FDR, we've always had the strategy of saying we could fight in 2 conflicts at once. Now we're changing to 1 conflict. Look, this, in my view, is the highest responsibility of the President of the United States, which is to maintain the safety of the American people.
Well, now, that's what Governor Romney said in response to the issue about the military and the size of the Navy. Now, President Obama responded, and this was probably the response that's garnered the most controversy right now. Take a listen.
I think Governor Romney maybe hasn't spent enough time looking at how our military works. You mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets because the nature of our military has changed. We have these things called aircraft carriers where planes land on them. We have these ships that go underwater, nuclear submarines. And so the question is not a game of battleship where we're counting ships.
Pretty aggressive responses, and I've got 2 military guys sitting here in the studio with me. Let me first go to Skip Ash. Skip, your reaction to that statement.
I think it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's so dismissive. It's arrogant. The number of ships, Governor Romney said the Navy was asking for 313 ships. Then the president comes back and says he doesn't understand this. If the Navy is asking for 313 ships to meet the requirements of the national strategy that the president develops, then they need 313 ships, not 200 ships.
Yeah, he was pretty condescending, David. I mean, I thought that was a pretty condescending moment for the president. It looked very desperate.
Well, it was unpresidential, I thought. It was condescending, it was snarky, and it didn't even respond to the point that Governor Romney made. And the reality is this: we have pilots flying planes that are older than them. We have men going to war in armored vehicles designed in the Carter years. And we have a diminishing Navy. And I don't care how advanced your nuclear submarines are or your aircraft carriers are, they can't be at 2 places at once. And so these are objective realities that Governor Romney mentioned. And the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, responded with mockery, derision, condescension. And I think that cheered his base, but I don't think it plays with anyone else.
A 10-second comment here, Skip, because I got to go to a break. What was your sense of the situation?
I thought Obama was, as said, was snarky. I thought he did something that he shouldn't have said, and I thought Romney was presidential.
All right, well, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're taking your calls, and our phone lines are jammed. I'm going to get right to them. But, folks, in all of the discussion last night, the president still has not come clean on Benghazi. We want to know what happened in Libya. The American people have a right to know. We don't want to keep funding the Muslim Brotherhood. Join this petition right now at 877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
A U.S. ambassador was assassinated and 3 other Americans murdered. Now, more than a month after this horrendous terrorist attack, President Obama still refuses to face the facts, to come clean with the American people, to tell the truth about what really happened in Benghazi, Libya. Congress is now actively investigating this brutal attack, working to get the facts, to cut through the political maneuvering, to tell the American people exactly what happened and why. Unfortunately, it's becoming a common theme with the Obama administration. We still don't know what really happened with the botched gun-running program Fast and Furious that took the life of a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Now, another crisis. Lots of questions, no straight answers. Stand with the ACLJ now and support this congressional investigation. It's time for President Obama to quit waffling on this issue. It's time the facts come out and the American people get the truth about what happened in Libya. Add your name now. Call 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Let me read you this cable that came in. As the analysis has been going forward on what happened in Libya and Benghazi in particular, our ambassador sent a cable on June 25th, 2012, not only asking for additional security, but saying, quote, Libya's fragile security deteriorates as tribal rivalries, power plays, and extremism intensifies. He said an Islamic group claimed responsibility for the initial attacks on that embassy, which, by the way, took place in June. He said, again, the cable said, the statements issued by imprisoned Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman's brigade accused basically our embassy of proselytizing Christianity to Libyans and described the attack against the United States as targeting the Christians supervising the management of the consulate. You're not getting a lot of this on other news sources. This, again, is the excuse for them engaging in horrific activity. David Benjamin is with our office in Jerusalem, a senior counsel, also served in the Israeli Defense Force. David, let me give you get your analysis of the debate yesterday on how you saw things developing, especially as it related to Israel.
Well, of course, what did stand out is what Governor Romney pointed out, that President Obama, since he has come into office, has not visited Israel, and that absolutely, of course, he said they noticed, meaning the Muslim states he visited,
right.
But of course the Israelis took notice of that too. Of course, Obama did visit Israel on his during his campaign, but it is something that does stand out quite dramatically. That he chose not to visit Israel during his presidency.
You know, it does. I'm going to get to the bite in a moment on this, but Skip, let me ask you this. Following up on what David said, I mean, the president did not visit Israel as the president of the United States. Not one time in 4 years.
That's significant. He's sitting there saying that Israel's our most important ally, and yet he goes everywhere else. And we have the history of how he has treated the prime ministers of Israel when they come to visit in Washington or New York, and he refuses to meet with them or he walks out of meetings. So Romney was right when he said that his visiting those Arab nations and not visiting Israel was exactly sending the message that there was some type of rift between the United States and Israel.
Let me play for you folks. There's going to be 3 sound bites from the election. You'll see for our television audience, you're going to actually see the video of this. Let's go to number 49. This is Governor Romney first talking about what was his view of what was going on in the Middle East and the Green Revolution in Tehran, which he thought was a missed opportunity for the United States. Number 49.
And then the president began what I've called an apology tour of going to various nations in the Middle East and criticizing America. I think they looked at that and saw weakness. Then when there were dissidents in the streets of Tehran, a green revolution, holding signs saying, "Is America with us?" the president was silent. I think they noticed that as well. And I think that when the president said he was going to create daylight between ourselves and Israel, that they noticed that as well. All of these things suggested, I think, to the Iranian mullahs that, hey, we can keep on pushing along here.
All right, so that started in the debate process. Then President Obama responds. Let me play this one for you. This is President Obama's response to Governor Romney, number 51.
Nothing Governor Romney just said is true. Starting with this notion of me apologizing. This has been probably the biggest whopper that's been told during the course of this campaign. And every fact checker and every reporter who's looked at it, Governor has said this is not true.
You know, what's interesting about that is that the truth of the matter is President Obama was wrong on that. The fact checkers, let's go ahead and get the fact checking done on that. But the President of the United States has not gone to Israel. You're going to hear about that. Did not support the Green Revolution in Iran. We're in an opportunity. We had 1 million people in Tehran, young people that wanted to overturn the Ayatollahs. Here's Governor Romney's response.
The reason I call it an apology tour is because you went to the Middle East and you flew to Egypt and to Saudi Arabia and to Turkey and Iraq. And by the way, you skipped Israel, our closest friend in the region. But you went to the other nations. And by the way, they noticed that you skipped Israel. And then in those nations, and on Arabic TV, you said that America had been dismissive and derisive. You said that on occasion, America had dictated to other nations. Mr. President, America has not dictated to other nations. We have freed other nations from dictation.
Well, this was a lively exchange on the foreign policy issue. And while all of this is going on, of course, we've got the situation where the administration is asking for $1.2 billion to go to the Muslim Brotherhood-led government in Egypt. And we don't have the facts on Benghazi. And believe me, in this next 2-week period, the White House doesn't want to give you the facts. Well, we're demanding the truth. We want accountability here. And we've got a petition that thousands of you have signed over the last few days. I encourage you to do it as well. Go to our website at aclj.org. This petition is basically saying this: come clean on Benghazi. What happened in Libya? There is live video feeds that can be looked at and reviewed. We want to know what happened in Libya. That's number one. Number two, we don't want funding to go to the Muslim Brotherhood-led government in Egypt, especially without conditions, which is what's going on right now. So again, go to aclj.org to sign this petition or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org to sign on to this petition to have your voice heard. And folks, we want to hear from you on what was the issues that were motivating you the most during this debate. How do you feel about the election? We're 2 weeks away. Who are you voting for, and why are you voting for that person? We're going right to New York. Ralph's on line 4. Hi, Ralph.
How you doing, boss?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to kind of give an idea of I live in New York City, you know.
Yes, sir.
The largest city in America, most populated. You know, I work for an agency that's got over 10,000 people in it. And a lot of things that I'm hearing is, especially from the Christians, is I don't know who to vote for. You know, I get into a lot of conversations.
I think what I hear that from all groups of people in all different faith groups. You know, who do you vote for? We don't tell people on this broadcast who to vote for. I think you've got to look at the policies that each party's articulating and make a decision based on your worldview. I mean, I think that's what elections are all about in a free society, in a democratic republic. That's what we are. We're a republic. We get the right to vote. You base it on your worldview. You saw two clashes of that yesterday, and when it comes to foreign affairs, there were two very different views here.
Absolutely two different views. And I think that President Obama's view is exactly what Romney said, and that is that it was a weak view. It was one of these things that projects weakness abroad. And he's looking through the world through rose-colored glasses. I think President Romney would be more realistic in what's going on. He realizes who our allies are. He realizes what the dangers are, and President Obama is even reluctant to identify terrorism or terrorists as a danger to the United States.
Well, he certainly has taken this view that he wants to call it something else. David, how do you view this as an Israeli, looking at it with the situation unfolding as it is right now in the Middle East? I mean, obviously, yesterday's debate was all foreign affairs, and a lot of it was the Middle East. What's your sense?
Well, my take on this, and of course I'm not coming from an official point of view here, but my take on this is that it's true. President Obama did point out there's going to be in fact, it's taking place now, a very large military exercise with America and Israel. There has been a dramatic increase of military activity on the ground under the Obama presidency. And I think President Obama is essentially going with the idea, talk softly, carry a big stick. What I would say is I'm not sure that works in the Middle East. In fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. In the Middle East, you have to talk loudly and carry a big stick. Otherwise, the message just doesn't get through, and it doesn't seem to be getting through.
Yeah, Skip.
I think that's exactly right. It's that whole culture respects strength. Look at the governments they set up. They always set up very strong governments. This idea of having a democratic society like Israel's been able to create does not work in the Islamic world. Very often you have one man, one vote, one time, and I think that may be what's going to be happening in Egypt.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you both talked about the two different views of how they talk softly, carry a big stick, but in the Middle East you got to carry a big stick and talk very loud as well. Two different worldviews on that for sure. Let me play both. Number 14 is President Obama. Take a listen.
Governor Romney, I'm glad that you recognize that al-Qaeda is a threat, because a few months ago when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because the Cold War's been over for 20 years.
And Governor Romney responded to that. Again, this got very personal. Listen to number 15.
We're talking about the Middle East and how to help the Middle East reject the kind of terrorism we're seeing and the rising tide of tumult and confusion. And attacking me is not an agenda. Attacking me is not talking about how we're going to deal with the challenges that exist in the Middle East and take advantage of the opportunity there and stem the tide of this violence.
And the violence, of course, continued in Libya just recently. We unfortunately experienced that firsthand here in the United States. Folks, we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to your phone calls. And let me tell you what we're trying to do. There's 2 weeks to the next election for the President of the United States, and we want to know some facts. You know, we did this with Fast and Furious and that whole situation and gun running into Mexico. Now we've got the crisis in Libya. We've got 4 Americans dead, and there's a video that actually showed this in real time on what happened. Remember, the White House, the administration blamed a video on YouTube that was anti-Muslim problem in their view, and therefore was causing these problems. That ended up not being true, even though the president went to the floor of the UN 6 times talking about this video, which the video was awful. But having said that, then none of that justified what happened in Libya, because it didn't cause what happened in Libya. So we want the truth on that, and that's where you need to come in and exercise your right as a citizen of the United States, demanding truth from your government. We've got a petition up on that right now. Ask for the truth. We want to know the facts on Libya right now. Go to aclj.org, or you call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255, or aclj.org to sign this petition. Back with more in just a moment.
A U.S. ambassador was assassinated and 3 other Americans murdered. Now, more than a month after this horrendous terrorist attack, President Obama still refuses to face the facts, to come clean with the American people, to tell the truth about what really happened in Benghazi, Libya. Congress is now actively investigating this brutal attack, working to get the facts, to cut through the political maneuvering, to tell the American people exactly what happened and why. Unfortunately, it's becoming a common theme with the Obama administration. We still don't know what really happened with the botched gun-running program Fast and Furious that took the life of a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Now, another crisis. Lots of questions, no straight answers. Stand with the ACLJ now and support this congressional investigation. It's time for President Obama to quit waffling on this issue. It's time the facts come out and the American people get the truth about what happened in Libya. Add your name now. Call 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. I want to play a question first from Bob Schieffer about Israel and how we would view an attack on Israel. Let's play the question, and then I'm going to play each answer, but I want to talk about the question first. Let's go ahead and play the question.
Would either of you, and you'll have 2 minutes, and President Obama, you have the first go at this one. Would either of you be willing to declare that an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States? Which, of course, is the same promise that we give to our close allies like Japan. And if you made such a declaration, would not that deter Iran? It's certainly deterred the Soviet Union for a long, long time when we made that promise to our allies.
So basically, you've got, it was an attack on Israel, an attack on the United States, and before we get you the answers of the candidates for president, let's talk to our experts here. Let me go first to Skip. We talked about this a little bit while we were watching the debate. You would have nuanced the answer a little bit. Well, how would have you done it?
I would have nuanced the answer because Israel is attacked by so many tiny things that you couldn't come to their aid at every instance.
But I think he was talking about a major attack.
But a major attack, I think the answer should be an absolute yes, and that would send a message to the entire Middle East about our support of Israel.
All right, David Benjamin, as an Israeli?
Yeah, well, I'm sure Israelis were listening very closely to the answers of the candidates to that particular question. Of course, if you like, this is perhaps this is the big one for the Israelis. You know, where does America stand?
Right.
Will America be there for us? You know, against this existential threat, which is Iran. And I think, you know, as far as Israelis are concerned, the biggest issue now in the American election is which candidate, okay, can we feel better about in that respect.
All right, well, let's listen to the candidate's answer. First, the President of the United States. Again, the question is, would either of you be willing to declare that an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States? First, President Obama.
Israel is a true friend. It is our greatest ally in the region. And if Israel is attacked, America will stand with Israel. I've made that clear throughout my presidency.
So you're saying we've already made that declaration.
I will stand with Israel if they are attacked. And this is the reason why, working with Israel, we have created the strongest military and intelligence cooperation between our 2 countries in history. In fact, this week, we'll be carrying out the largest military exercise with Israel in history, this very week.
Yeah, 2 weeks before a general election. Interesting. Your sense on that response, David?
Well, of course, what is significant is perhaps what's not in there.
Okay.
I mean, standing with Israel is good, obviously, but it's, you know, it doesn't have content. What does it mean, standing with Israel? Does it mean standing on the side and cheerleading and say, "Way to go, Israel"? Or does it mean more than that? There's a lot there which is unanswered.
So there was a lot of it was not clear what that meant.
Right.
Skip, same analysis, or?
I think that's a good analysis. Remember, in NATO, for instance, when one member state is attacked, they're all attacked, and that triggers all reciprocal obligations for military support. by not going that far in this answer, he's sort of waffling.
All right, so the question again was, if Israel's attacked, would we consider that an attack on the United States? That was asked by Bob Schieffer. Here is Governor Romney's response.
When I'm president of the United States, we will stand with Israel. And if Israel is attacked, we have their back, not just diplomatically, not just culturally, but militarily.
Those statements that both, if you look at Governor Romney's response and President Obama's response, David, those are big differences in what they're saying.
Well, I think that Governor Romney, he gave content to the meaning to the term "stand with Israel," and I think he obviously listened to President Obama's response and felt that was
now
working.
The question is, do you think that President Obama's response was calculated on this? They probably knew this question was coming or a question like it. What do you think? It's hard to look inside the candidates. Do you think President Obama, Skip, was giving an answer that he thought was going to quell the concern that some have that will this president stand with Israel?
I think he was. I think he was saying we'll support Israel, but he was saying in such a way that it could be misunderstood or understood differently by the neighboring nations with whom he's trying to curry favor.
Two very big differences there on that issue. Let me play for you, and then I want to get David Benjamin's comment on this. This is what President Obama said exactly on that point, number 7.
Well, my first job as Commander-in-Chief, Bob, is to keep the American people safe. And that's what we've done over the last 4 years. We ended the war in Iraq, refocused our attention on those who actually killed us on 9/11. And as a consequence, al-Qaeda's core leadership has been decimated. In addition, we're now able to transition out of Afghanistan in a responsible way, making sure that Afghans take responsibility for their own security.
Because you got Afghan security that's been killing American soldiers. That's been a whole horrible thing. But I wanted to ask David Benjamin this from our office in Jerusalem on the question of the president said al-Qaeda's core leadership has been decimated, yet we're still seeing attacks. I mean, how do you view this? I mean, it's good to knock out the leadership, but do these things continue to grow?
Well, as you say, without question, the fact that bin Laden is no longer on the stage is significant. But the fact of the matter is al-Qaeda is all over the place. We see it in the Sinai Peninsula. I don't know the group that was arrested now in London, in Birmingham in the UK, plotting a terrorist attack, who they were affiliated with. I assume it also has something to do with al-Qaeda. And we have this all over the world. The problem is that al-Qaeda has changed its form over the years. It's just become a collection or loosely connected group of autonomous cells.
Right.
And really, the fact that you've cut off the head actually doesn't make that much difference now. The body's functioning.
Yeah, so the strategy of, we get the head, the snake goes away. It just is not the way it's working. David?
Al-Qaeda is a movement. It's not a mafia. In other words, you will have independent cells spring up around the world, and they will affiliate themselves with al-Qaeda, but they would be jihadists if an al-Qaeda existed or didn't exist. We're facing a jihadist movement, and that's the key issue.
That's going to do it for the broadcast today. Again, if you want to sign on to that petition to find out what happened in Libya and get an answer before this election, go to aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org. to get that information out of the White House as to what happened in Libya. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A U.S. ambassador was assassinated and 3 other Americans murdered. Now, more than a month after this horrendous terrorist attack, President Obama still refuses to face the facts, to come clean with the American people, to tell the truth about what really happened in Benghazi, Libya. Congress is now actively investigating this brutal attack, working to get the facts, to cut through the political maneuvering, to tell the American people exactly what happened and why. Unfortunately, it's becoming a common theme with the Obama administration. We still don't know what really happened with the botched gun-running program Fast and Furious that took the life of a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Now, another crisis. Lots of questions, no straight answers. Stand with the ACLJ now and support this congressional investigation. It's time for President Obama to quit waffling on this issue. It's time the facts come out and the American people get the truth about what happened in Libya. Add your name now. Call 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.